Man, do things feel differently for James Franklin 1 year later, don't they? I mean, last year at this time, I was doing lives on TikTok. We were talking college football in the offseason. And over and over and over, James Franklin's name would come up saying, hey, this is the best Penn State roster he's ever going to have. It's now or never for James Franklin. Well, we found out very quickly that it was not going to work there. And they fired him early in the year, which was crazy after being so close to the national championship game the year before. But regardless, he gets a new beginning at Virginia Tech, and I'll tell you what, man, there are some things to work with here. I know he had a lot to work with at Penn State, but there are some things to work with for a year one head coach on a team that was pretty awful last year. And I cannot wait to dive into it. So, guys, you are listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast. We are making our way around the country in college football. We're going to get into the NFL too at some point. But right now, going around trying to preview every team's season in FBS. This is one of our last ones for the ACC, where we're going to talk about James Franklin and the Hokies. You can find this podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts, pretty much Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's published via Podbean. My website, youthinkyouKnowSports.com, has a ton more information on all these teams. We discuss it. And then on my TikTok, where I have over 10,000 followers, I do daily lives there, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. So I hope you'll join me in one of those spots. Look, I think Franklin is taking over a team that went 3-9, 2-6 in the ACC last year. But I think the outlook on this team is much rosier than that for many reasons. Let's back up for a second, though. It was not that long ago that Frank Beamer had Virginia Tech as a year in and year out contender, not only in the ACC, but nationally. Virginia Tech hasn't won 10 games since 2016. Hard to believe. They won 10 games every year from 2004 to 2011, and only one time since. So from 04 to 2011, 10 games every year, and then they've done it once in the time frame since. That was 2016. James Franklin is 128-60. He's won 10 games 6 of his 9 years, 6 of his last 9 at Penn State. Okay, so James Franklin expects to win. He is a winner. I know people disagree. Like he didn't beat Ohio State. He didn't beat Michigan. He didn't beat the really elite teams enough at Penn State. But he beat everybody else for the most part, very consistently. Virginia Tech would take that right now because Virginia Tech has not been a real factor in the ACC since becoming a member of the ACC. Penn State last year averaged 29 points per game, and they allowed 21 points per game. They ran the ball on 57% of their plays. I know that Franklin wasn't the head coach there, ended up being the majority of the year, but Virginia Tech ran it the exact same percentage, 57%, scored 10 less points a game, and allowed 11 more points per game. Okay, so we'll see if James Franklin can immediately make a big difference in those numbers. By the way, Brent Pry, in one of the most unique circumstances I remember with a coach losing their job in college football, is coming in as the DC. So he's going to be working for Franklin, which I think is a good thing for continuity. Quarterback-wise, Ethan Grunkmeyer appears to be the guy. He was quarterback at Penn State, took over when Drew Aller got hurt last year. So he followed Franklin to Virginia Tech. He threw for 1,339 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks last year. He was 4-3 as a starter. And while I think wins and losses can sometimes be overrated as a quarterback stat, his losses were to Iowa, who had one of the best defenses in the country, Ohio State, and both of those games were on the road, by the way, and to national champion Indiana. So if you're 4-3 and your losses are Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana, listen, most teams lost to those three, right? He did not throw for over 300 yards in any game. He was 6 of 22 on deep balls, a touchdown and a pick. Only 12% of his pass attempts were actually deep balls, which is defined by PFF, Pro Football Focus, as a pass that went 20-plus yards down the field. He completed 74% of his passes when kept clean in the pocket and 56% when under pressure. I got to tell you, I break down a lot of quarterbacks in their advanced analytics. 56% is pretty good under pressure, especially when you only have a handful of starts under your belt in college football. But really, the key, while Grunkmeyer is huge here to have him in, this roster, man, is bringing back a ton. 14 guys are back for Virginia Tech. That is the second most of any team in the country. Only USC has more players back than Virginia Tech. They have got Marcellus Hawkins back at running back. They've got two receivers in Green and Heath. They've got their tight end in Benji Gosnell. They've got four offensive linemen who are back. All Tuner Garrett, Ganem, and Lynch are all back. So this is an offense that should be able to take a step forward this year. You know? Hawkins last year had 749 rushing yards and a touchdown. Green had 31 catches, 516 yards, 3 touchdowns. Virginia Tech's got 62% of its snaps returning. That is according to a CBS Sports article that broke down the entire country. It's the fourth best in the country. So whether you're counting bodies, which 14 is second most in the country in returning players, returning starters, or the snaps, Virginia Tech's in the top 5 either way. And I know they were 3 and 9. You know, sometimes we say, you know, addition by subtraction is good. Maybe you don't want all the guys back if you couldn't win last year, right? Like I know that's what a lot of people are probably thinking, but the truth is having guys who have started at the Power 4 level, have started ACC games, I think is a leg up for James Franklin as he tries to rebuild this program into what it used to be. The O-line last year was not great in pass protection. We'll see if they can be a little bit better this year. They obviously had Kyron Jones at quarterback last year, who was like a roller coaster, man. We talked about him a lot on my show. You never knew what you were going to get from Kyron Jones, especially in the passing game. They've added a few guys as well on the offensive line. Logan Howland, Justin Terry, Michael Troutman are all coming in. So we'll see if there's some competition there, even though you have some continuity along the offensive line. And then they've got some help in the skill positions. So Quayshawn Brown is coming in from Duke. He had 64 catches last year, 846 yards and 5 touchdowns, playing with Darian Mensah. And that high-flying passing game where they threw the ball deep very regularly. And then tight end Luke Reynolds is coming in from Penn State. He had 26 receptions last year. So there are a lot of things to like about this about this Virginia Tech team under Franklin. The other thing I'll say is when you look at teams that could make a big jump year over year, you look at their turnover margin the previous year. Penn State was negative 0.8 in turnover margin per game last year. They had 7 penalties a game. That is number 111 in the country. The turnover margin was number 118. So if you knock either one of those things out, this team is going to be a lot more competitive this year. The schedule, it kind of depends on what frame and what perspective you look at this schedule. So they open with VMI on September 5th, then Old Dominion. Old Dominion has played Virginia Tech pretty tough through the years. That one's September 12th. They go to Maryland on September the 19th, okay? So that is their Power 4 non-conference game. It's on the road at College Park at Maryland. Then you've got a trip to BC on September 26th. So they'll play back-to-back on the road. Again, not taking anything away from Maryland, not taking away anything from Boston College, the team that we started this series with. But I'm not terrified of going to either one of those places to play a college football game. Doesn't mean Virginia Tech can't lose both of those games. But, I like my chances if I'm the Hokies, if those are my road games early. They host Pittsburgh on October the 2nd, and then they go to California on October the 10th. Those are tricky, right? Especially if a 4-0 Virginia Tech team goes in there, which I do think is possible. Heinzel, the quarterback at Pitt, is scary. JKS at Cal, they've got some weapons back. That's a long road trip for the Hokies. They host Georgia Tech on October 17th. They go to Clemson on October 24th. Then they have Halloween off. They go to SMU the weekend of November 7th for a game in Dallas. They are one of two ACC teams that play either at Cal or Stanford and then also play at SMU. So I see that as a little bit of a disadvantage with the schedule, having two kind of longer travel games within the conference. I said September. November the 14th, they host Stanford. They go to Miami November 21st. Virginia Tech has historically played Miami really well. James Franklin's going to have these guys ready to go. Miami's probably going to be right in the middle of the playoff picture at that point. We'll see. You never know, late November in college football. And then they host Virginia to end the year. So road games end up being at California, at Clemson, at SMU, and at Virginia. Actually, not at Virginia. They host Virginia at Miami. So at Cal, at Clemson, at SMU, and at Miami. So I think that there is a chance there's some leeway here in the schedule for them to get off to a good start, and it feels like those games against Pittsburgh and California could turn this schedule pretty quickly one way or the other for James Franklin in year one with the Hokies. Look, I think that this is an exciting team to watch because what we love in college football are year one coaches, especially established coaches, with a roster that brings back a lot of continuity, even though it was a bad team last year. They were kind of thrown for a curve when their coach was fired early on. So we'll see what Franklin can do. I'd love to hear from you and all the channels I've got for more information and predictions on the Hokies. I think the Virginia Tech is going to be a team where there are varying opinions for sure this season. So, guys, you're listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast. Our next one will be on Syracuse, which was inadvertently skipped as we kind of went through this in ABC order. You can listen to this anywhere you can find podcasts. Don't forget to go on my website, youthinkyouKnowsports.com, with a U instead of YOU. And join us on TikTok for my daily lives at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. Love to see you there, guys. Hope to see you on the next episode.